Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare
Welcome
Hare
to
Krishna Mataji Dhanvat Pranam.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Jai.
Hare
Welcome
Krishna
to today's
Mataji.
class. Okay, let's start with our Mangala Charanam.
Hare Krishna
Om
Mataji.
Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat
Hare Krishna
Jai.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So, last class we did the first part of chapter 3. We were talking about working in Krishna consciousness and how everybody has to do their duty, their prescribed duty according to their position in society. And Krishna says that even he does his duty, because if he didn't, then all the worlds would be put into ruination. The whole society would be spoiled. So human society is functioning because people are doing their duties, or at least not that everyone's doing their duty, but at least enough people are doing their duties in order for things to somehow go on. But if everyone would stop doing their duties, then the world would be in trouble. So for us, devotees, even if somebody does decide to, um, just move into an ashram and live a monastic life, something like that, become like Haridas Thakur and live in a cave and chant 192 rounds a day, although that's not recommended for beginners. But even if someone did decide to do that, there's enough people that are still, producing food and, you know, uh, governing the country and teaching children how to read and write, and right, that society will go on. So even devotees need to set the good example. And even if you are a brahmachari or something like that, brahmacharini, then do the duties that come with that ashram and do them properly. So whatever situation we're in, we need to do our duty, because as Krishna says, whatever actions a great person performs, common people follow. Okay, so now we're starting from text 27. Text 27, Krishna is addressing the point of who's actually doing what, who's actually the doer here in the material world. So, let's see. There are a few verses that speak on this topic. So let's go to, let's read 27 to 29. Someone please, the translations. Go ahead, Simala.
Mataji, can I?
Simo's got her hand up, so we'll go there.
Okay.
Text 27. The spirit souls, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are actually carried out by the three modes of material nature. Text 28. One who is in knowledge of the absolute truth, O mighty arm, does not engage himself in the senses and the sense gratification, knowing well the difference between work and devotion, work for fruitive results. Text number 29. Bewildered by the modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached. But the wise should not unsettle them, although these duties are inferior due to performers' lack of knowledge.
Jai, thank you. So what we're seeing here is that there are two different kinds of, see, everybody's doing their duty. Everyone's working in the world, doing something, some kind of activity, because the nature of the soul is to be active. But there's two different ways of being active in the world. One is under the direct guidance of Guru and Krishna, according to Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And another way is being directed by the three modes of material nature. So in text 37, Krishna is saying that when the spirit soul is bewildered by false ego, then they think themselves the doer of activities, but actually those activities are being carried out by the three modes of material nature. So, yeah, the purport Prabhupada says that these two people, one in Krishna consciousness, and the other in material consciousness, working on the same level, may appear to be working on the same platform, but there's a wide gulf of difference in their respective positions. The person in material consciousness is convinced by false ego that he is the doer of everything. He doesn't know the mechanisms that work in this world, right? That our body, which is our machine for doing work, is produced by material nature. And also the three modes of material nature, which we're going to learn out, you'll learn about as you get to in the third part of the Bhagavad Gita, are inducing us to act in certain ways, whether in goodness and passion and ignorance, impelling us to do certain activities in this world. But ultimately, all this is happening under the direction of the Lord. So, yeah, Prabhupada says materialistic people have no idea that Krishna is controlling everything, and they take credit for whatever they do, thinking that they've done it on their own strength, by their own intelligence, by their own inspiration, whereas actually the Lord is giving the inspiration, giving the intelligence, giving the strength, giving the ability. And he's also pulling the strings of the three modes of material nature. Like we have that picture in some of the versions of Bhagavad Gita or other books. There's a picture of the person who's working, and then there's up in the clouds, there's these goddesses who are representing goodness, passion, and ignorance, and they've got like strings, and they're pulling, the person is tied to the strings, and then like a puppet on the strings. So the three modes of material nature are making everyone work in this world, just like a puppeteer is pulling the strings on the puppet and making the leg lift and the arm lift and the head turn and the right mouth open. So yeah, but people aren't aware of that, and they think I'm moving, I'm talking, I'm thinking, I'm right, coming up with some good ideas here. So the difference is that the person in Krishna consciousness not only knows that, but also comes to the very rational conclusion that if Krishna is controlling everything anyway, then I should surrender to him. Then I should align myself. I should find out what is his will and not just try to convince him to make me do the things that I want to do, but actually I should try to do what he wants to do and align myself with him. So the person in Krishna consciousness, they're not bewildered by false ego because they know who they really are. False ego means I don't know who I am. It means I think I'm something that I'm not. Right? Ego means your sense of self, the sense of I am whatever you think you are. That's ego. So when we think I am this body, that's a false ego. That's a wrong sense of self. It's a misconception. If we think, yeah. But if we think I am a soul, I'm an eternal spiritual being, I'm a part and parcel of Krishna, and I'm the eternal servant of Krishna, that's the real ego. So when the spirit soul is not bewildered, when they're very much realized self-realized, they know who they really are, they're working under real ego, then they don't think themselves the doer of their activities. And nor are their activities carried out by the three modes of material nature, but their activities are carried out directly by Krishna, right? As we read, that they're illuminated from within the heart and confirmed from outside by the spiritual master. So that's the beauty of Krishna consciousness, is that we are not bewildered. Everything is very clear. We're not claiming credit for things that, that Krishna is empowering. And we're very aligned with Krishna. So I'm saying a transcendental person, someone who's transcendental to the three modes of material nature, they're not influenced, they're not pushed here and there by goodness, passion, and ignorance. The strings are cut, right? We cut the strings. Those puppeteers are no longer controlling us. Now who's controlling or facilitating our activities in this world is Krishna through his different representatives. Okay. So then this is the symptom in text 28, is the person who's actually in knowledge. They don't engage the senses in sense gratification. They don't work for fruitive results. And the reason that they're acting in this world is not to get some material gain, but they're working in devotion. The impetus for their action is just the pleasure of Krishna. I'm doing this to please Krishna. I'm doing this to please my guru. I'm doing this to, push forward the mission of Srila Prabhupada, the mission of Lord Chaitanya, the mission of Krishna, and spreading Krishna consciousness. So then it's very beautiful. And then text 29 says that those who are bewildered by the modes of material nature due to ignorance, they become attached. So they become attached to their material activities, they become attached to their material situation, and so they're always suffering, because material attachments always bring suffering. Because one, we're in anxiety, the things that we have, we get attached to, then we get anxious that we're going to lose them, someone's going to take them away, right? Somebody's going to, steal away my wife, or steal my car, or hack my bank account, or, right? We get anxious about these things, kidnap my children, or whatever, Of course, those things hopefully won't happen. But the point is that we become attached to the things, we become attached to our bodies, we become attached to our reputation, our position, all these things. And so it's always a cause of anxiety, and inevitably it's a cause of pain, because all those things that we're attached to, we're going to have to lose. Inevitably, we're going to lose all of them, if not in this life, at the time of death. But then Krishna says, but those who are wise, those who are transcendental, although they don't have these attachments, although they don't have these anxieties, and they don't act materially, but don't prematurely disturb the minds of people who are attached, even though they're inferior, but just gradually convince them to add Krishna, right? To do a little bit of bhakti yoga. Whatever you're doing, that's okay, do your thing. But just chant Hare Krishna, even if it's just one round a day, just wake up an extra 15 minutes early and sit down before you go to work, before you go to school, before you, cook breakfast, and just, chant one round, maybe read a verse from Bhagavad Gita, say a little prayer to Krishna to give you strength for the day, and then you go ahead and do your duties. So gradually. And at the end of this paragraph of the purport, Prabhupada says that Krishna advises us not to disturb people who are ignorant and attached, but devotees are more kind than the Lord, because they understand the purpose of the Lord. Consequently, they undertake all kinds of risks, even to the point of approaching ignorant men to try to engage them in acts of Krishna consciousness, which are absolutely necessary for the human being. So even though Krishna says, you do your bhakti and just leave them alone, the devotee's like, well, I'm not going to just leave them alone, Krishna, because I know that ultimately you want them to get back to your service. So, yeah, I'll just gradually bring them into Krishna consciousness, in a way that doesn't disturb them. So that's the point. Krishna's like, he's not saying don't make them devotees. He's saying don't disturb them. So then we have to become masters in the art of bringing people to Krishna consciousness without disturbing them too much, right? Do it gently, very gently, just ease them into it. Of course, some people are ready. You can just throw them in the deep end and they'll swim, right? But some people, they just are afraid of water and don't know how to swim, and we don't want them to drown. So we don't throw them in the deep end. We take them in gently. First, get your toes a little wet, feel the water, then you wade in up to your knees, see how you like it, little by little, right? And then eventually they get there. Yes, Daya?
Hare Krishna Mataji, am I audible?
Yes.
Mataji, as you said that attachment end at the time of death, but we have also listened that like whatever desire we have, that are the cause of attachment, and due to these desire, we got next birth according to that desire, whatever desiring we have. So like my question is, how can then attachment end? Because it is being continued in next birth. There's also these kind of thing being continued.
Yeah. So it's not that at the time of death you become free from your attachment to the things that you're attached to, but you lose the things that you're attached to, right? Like say you're very attached to your car. You got a brand new car. It's like a really nice, Tesla or something, right? And you're really attached to that car, and you're always washing it and waxing it and cleaning it, and you drive down the street like with the window down so everybody can see that it's you and it's your car. And then, of course, at the time of death, you're going to lose the car, right? You're not taking your car with you to the next life, but the attachment you had to that car remains, right? Or the attachment to, the subtle things that you felt, that the subtle desires that car fulfilled for you, right? Like status. You're still attached to, being respected, being, you know, people turning their heads and looking at you and being like, whoa, he's cool, right? That kind of thing. That's what we're attached to. It's not even the car that is the attachment. It's the more subtle things and that the car is doing for us. So then in the next life, we're just going to find other ways to, um, get
Mantaji,
those
like
desires
as you
fulfilled.
said, Mantaji, as you said, car and many other things. So like someone is very attached to eating meat. Next life, he is continuing by eating meat. So like I think that attached material is available for them in next life too. So some things are they doesn't lose because they are by nature being provided to them.
Yeah, but you lose what you have in this life. So, you spend
Whatever
your
they
whole
have
life.
earned by their self, they that is being loose. But certain things are there.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and every time it's painful to lose those things. So instead of suffering pain life after life, it's best to be intelligent and free ourselves from the attachment to those things in this life so that we don't have to take birth again and again, to be attached to the same things again and again and suffer again and again. That's what Krishna is saying.
Thank you.
All right. Good. Let's go to text 30 to 32. Now Krishna is going to talk about, so in the last section, what we just read, Krishna was contrasting material activities, which are activities for material gain that we get attached to, and spiritual activities in Krishna consciousness. And now Krishna is directly going to tell Arjuna how to make his fighting in the battle of Kurukshetra a spiritual activity. Okay. Mahak Mulani.
Hare Krishna. Text number 30. Therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me with full knowledge of me, without desire for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy fight. Text number 31. Those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow his teaching faithfully without envy become free from the bondage of the fruitative actions. Text number 32. But those who, one of envy, disaggregate these teachings and do not follow them regularly are not be considered the effect of the all knowledge, be folded and run in their endeavors for perfection.
You'll see here in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is constantly contrasting what to do with what not to do. Foolish people who, are materially absorbed and get attached, with wise people who are unattached and do things in Krishna consciousness. So he keeps doing this so that we can see, what to do and what not to do. So in text 30, he's telling Arjuna what to do. Mai sarvani karmani. Right? Do all of your activities for me. And Prabhupada says, surrendering all your works unto me, with full knowledge of me, without desire for profit, with no claims for proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. So this is very practical guidance for all of us, that whatever we're doing, whatever our duties are, and it's different for everyone. For Arjuna's, his duty was to fight in the battlefield, right? Hopefully we don't have such difficult duties, but whatever our duties are, we should do them like this, right? Surrendering them to Krishna. Do them for Krishna, with full knowledge of Krishna, with no desire for profit, with no claim to proprietorship. In other words, what we get from our duty, we don't own. We're not trying to get some material thing, and we're not claiming ownership of what we may get automatically as a byproduct of our work. So, yeah, and when we work in this way, then what happens, he says, you get freed from all karmic reactions. In text 31, right? Those who execute their duties according to my injunctions faithfully. So that's another thing, is that we perform our duties with faith in Krishna. And that's what enables us to offer the results of our activities to Krishna, because we have faith in Krishna. We trust Krishna. Like, Krishna, I'm doing this for you. Here are the results of my activities. I totally trust you that you're going to take care of me and preserve what I have and carry what I lack. And the other thing is that without envy, right? That's very important. Anasuyanto, he says in text 31. So without envy. Envy means that, why should Krishna get everything? What about me? Why should Krishna be the enjoyer? I also want to enjoy myself. Why should Krishna be the owner of everything? I also want to have something for myself too. Or why should Krishna be the center of attention? People should look at me. They should see me. They should respect me. They should worship me. They should serve me, right? That's our problem, is that we think that, why should Krishna benefit from, our activities? And, that's the basic mindset that everyone in this world has, that why do we work? Why do we go out there and earn money or something? It's for me and my family. It's to maintain my family. It's to pay my bills. It's to buy my food. It's to fund my vacation, to pay for my education and my children and my extended family members. And, I worked hard and I earned this money, and I have a right to enjoy it. I have a right to use it according to how I please, right? Isn't that what everybody thinks? That's what everybody thinks. So, and then on the other hand, Krishna says we should be free from any desire for material profit. So then we might think, oh, well, if I'm not going to make any profit, what's the point? What's the point of running a business if I don't get the profits? Why go to work if I can't keep my income, if I just have to hand it over to Krishna, or use it all in Krishna's service? So then that attitude could lead to lethargy, there's laziness. All right, well, why work then? I'll just stay at home. So Krishna says, no, free from lethargy. He says, yeah, no desire for profit, no claim for proprietorship, and free from lethargy. So you're not doing it for yourself, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get lazy now and lose your motivation to do it at all. No, you're going to do it to your full capacity, using your full strength and intelligence with full enthusiasm, but you're going to do it for me, Krishna says. So this is very different to the way most people think and act in the world. So, yeah. And then if we start thinking that, oh, well, why should I work for Krishna's pleasure? What about my pleasure? If I'm doing the hard work, then, I should also enjoy the good things that come from that work. Then that's revealing some things that we need to work to work on, right? So one thing is that we don't have full faith in Krishna and that he's going to protect us, that he's going to maintain us, that if we give up our selfish interest to please him, he's not going to shower us with blessings. He will. He's going to provide everything. If you just think about it, Prabhupada would say that even a materialistic person who has a servant working for him, like in his house, like a live-in house servant, the master's going to take care of him, right? He's going to feed him. Because also, if he doesn't feed him nicely, then the servant's not going to be able to work. Right? He's going to give him a comfortable place to sleep in, because if he doesn't sleep well at night, how's he going to work? He's going to take care of his, if the servant gets sick, he's going to buy medicine, take him to the doctor. Why? Because if he's sick, he can't work. So even a mundane master takes care of the needs of, the servant. What to speak of Krishna, who actually is genuinely grateful for our devotional service. So of course he's going to give us food. Of course he's going to give us shelter. Of course he's going to, make arrangements for us to be taken care of when we're sick, when we have whatever needs we have, or even for our families. So we don't have to think about our pleasure because Krishna's thinking of it. Krishna wants us to be happy, and he's going to make sure that we're well situated and happy and satisfied and peaceful, so that we can go on doing our service nicely. So yeah, if we're thinking that, oh, if I'm just doing things for Krishna's pleasure, then what about my happiness? Then that reveals a lack of faith in Krishna. And it also reveals, what we were talking about, it reveals envy of Krishna. So it's common to be envious of somebody who has things that we want. And Krishna has everything, right? Krishna has all wealth, all strength, all fame, all knowledge, all beauty, and all renunciation. Krishna has absolutely everything that we could ever want. And so many people become envious of Krishna. And then those feelings of envy tend to create bad feelings. But like, let's say there's somebody, when we think about it in terms of in relation to Krishna, it's maybe a little abstract, right? But if you think of somebody, there must be somebody that that has something that you want and can't have. So when you see that person, parading around with their thing that you want and don't have, and they have it, then you can tend to be like, have bad feelings. You become a little critical towards that person, or you might even secretly hope that something bad happens to that person. You might even deliberately cause trouble for that person, or, definitely you won't be inclined to serve that person or try to please that person. So when we have these kinds of feelings towards Krishna, then it's a huge obstacle in our spiritual life. So that's why Krishna is saying here that only when we're free from envy can we actually follow his teachings with faith and love and be freed from our karma. As long as we're envious, even if we have spiritual knowledge, it's not going to help us. Because I may know that I'm a spirit soul. I may know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But if because of envy I can't bring myself to serve him, then what's the value of that knowledge? So we really need to get free from envy. So then the question is how to get free from envy. And the answer is we get free from envy by serving the Lord. But then you're like, oh, wait, but if I'm envious, then I don't want to serve the Lord. So that's why spiritual life is difficult in the beginning, right? Because we've been living in this material world for so many lifetimes. And when we try to shift our identification from, I'm this body, I'm the enjoyer, I'm the controller, to I'm a spirit soul, I'm the eternal servant of Krishna, then the mind goes haywire, it's mind-boggling. Yeah. And sometimes the techniques of spiritual life, like chanting japa and going for darshan and, studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and they might feel forced, right? They might feel like artificial. But if we just control our minds and, kind of push ourselves to follow the process that Srila Prabhupada has given us, follow the scriptures, then all these false conceptions and envy will gradually go away. They'll gradually disappear, and doing all the spiritual processes of bhakti will start to feel natural by Krishna's grace, and then we'll feel that happiness, and our faith will grow, and we'll become inspired and enthusiastic in our services. So those are some of the points that Krishna is touching on here. Okay, any thoughts on that? All right, then let's go to 33 to 35. So yeah, now Krishna is saying that we have to do spiritual activities, but those spiritual activities are not going to be the same for everyone. We all have our own personalities, and each individual has to act according to their nature in material life and also in spiritual life. So that's the next section, 33 to 35. Sundar Kumar?
Hare Krishna Mataji, I have a question
I have a
regarding
question. Go
locals.
ahead.
Am I audible?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, when we read Bhagavad Gita, sometimes question arises. So, it's a right like to raise the questions, yeah, or we are doubting Krishna's classification or statements.
Is it okay to ask questions? Or is that
Yeah, sometimes question arises like how it is possible, or how Krishna is saying like this. Is it possible it can happen? Like these type of questions also arise. So, like it's okay, or somewhere we are doubting Krishna, or we should not think like that.
Yeah, I mean, Prabhupada says that in the beginning, doubting is a good thing, that doubt is a sign of intelligence in the beginning. So, but those doubts should make us ask questions, right, to bona fide spiritual authorities. If we just keep the doubts and we don't express them to the right person, then our doubts will stay haunting us all the time, and it'll be difficult for us to commit ourselves to devotional service. So if you have some question, that's okay. Just bring it up to the right person, and probably they'll be able to explain it in such a way that your doubt goes away and your faith grows. Like Arjuna does. We're going to see probably tomorrow in the beginning of chapter 4, where Krishna says that I instructed this science of Bhagavad Gita to the sun god and then Arjuna says, wait a minute, the sun god is like, so many years older than you are. How is it that you taught him something? And then Krishna explains, oh, many births both you and I have passed. I remember, but you forgot. So, and then he launches into a whole explanation of his, the transcendental nature of his appearance and his activities in this world. So by then Arjuna's like, okay, now I understand how you could have taught the sun god Bhagavad Gita. So he didn't just go away thinking, oh, Krishna just said something totally bogus. That's impossible. I don't believe him. Probably everything else he said was also bogus. I think I'll just find someone else to help me. He actually asks him, right? He confronts him on it, in a submissive, inquisitive, respectful way. And then instead of losing faith, his faith grows. So that's what we have to do. Okay.
On the continue, like somewhere Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, if a person truly accepts my statements, he's a wise person. I don't remember shloka, but somewhere it's written, right?
Yeah, I think we just
18th chapter.
Sorry.
which?
It's in the 18th chapter.
Yeah, it's in maybe, but I don't remember exact shloka, but somewhere Krishna says it. So it is still better to raise question like if question arises, then it doesn't mean we are we accepting truly that, yeah, if Krishna says that's it.
Yeah, I
Co-
mean, there's a difference between just not understanding it and needing clarification and rejecting it, right? So you don't want to reject it, but if someone says something and you don't understand it, and in your mind is like, that doesn't make sense. I'm not sure about that. Then you just ask, right? That's different than somebody saying something and then you just being like, no, that's not true. That's impossible. I'm going, you know? So it's okay to be inquisitive. We should be inquisitive. If something's not clear, just keep asking until it's clear. It doesn't
I-
mean that you're not wise. Like I said, Prabhupada said that doubting is a sign of intelligence. But if we go on doubting and doubting and doubting, and after, 25 years, you're still doubting, and then, that becomes an impediment. Then it's almost like you're just attached, you're just skeptical. You're just like unreasonably skeptical or something. You just like are attached to disbelieving. So then that's not helpful. At one point, we should also just open our minds and be like, all right, I don't understand this, but I see that a lot of people that I respect and that I know are, intelligent, good people are following it. So let me just give it a try and give bhakti a try. And even if I don't understand it intellectually, let's see how it feels. Let's see if it makes a difference in my life somehow. Okay. So sometimes we may have strong faith, and sometimes we may have to just take a leap of faith. But, as long as we're not rejecting, Prabhupada said, as long as we're not resentful of the principle, right? We may not be able to follow, we may not be able to understand, but as long as we don't become resentful of the principle, then there's hope for us. Okay, Kishori? You sure you have your hand up, or are you just waving there? Maybe she's gone. Okay, Raki?
Yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna. My question is about karmic account. So here I am going to, I'm giving an example of myself or my daughter or etc. If my child or I am doing something wrong, and after 4 years or 5 years maybe, my mom my mom or I slapped my daughter or I am slapped by my mom. So I will definitely ask my question, what did I do? So if my mom says that 4 years ago you did that wrong thing, and then that's why I'm slapping you or I'm giving punishment. So sometimes, so many times even, this question arises in my mind that there are so many things that is happening to innocent people or good people that they are that they are not aware about that what they have done. So why it is happening like that, they didn't know even about them. Is it okay? Like, we are no one to say is it okay, but this question arises that why it is happening that they even don't know what they did. Like, after after and birth, like we have pastimes karma. So we didn't know what did we do, and we are not aware even, and we are not doing anything wrong, but it is happening. We pastime karma is making the results in our life. So it's like, why it is happening that Krishna is giving those punishment that even I don't know, even after my rebirth, but after any like, if there is happening to any innocent child or some good people. So this question always arises in my mind, but why it is happening like this?
Yeah. Would be better if we do something wrong and we get the punishment immediately, right?
Yes, I
Then at
think.
least we know we did something wrong. Like
Yes,
you,
as I've given the example of my daughter, or I'm doing something wrong, and after 4 years, if my mom slapped me, I will ask, oh, I have done 4 years before. Now, why are you slapping me now?
yeah. Yeah. So the thing is that if we got instant karma as soon as we did some sinful activity, basically we wouldn't be able to live. Because in the material world, we're basically getting so much karma at every moment that if we got slapped every time we committed some bad karma, we would be just dead, you know? We wouldn't be able to function, right? I mean, if you think about it, like just breathing, we're killing so many microorganisms, and just walking down the street, we're stepping on so many insects, and you know, in so many ways we offend people either directly or subtly, knowingly or unknowingly, and yeah, if we're not Krishna conscious, we're just accruing so much karma. And if we got an instant reaction, we would just, you know, imagine you're walking down the street to go and, you know, buy some fruit or something for your family for breakfast, and you step on an ant, and immediately, you know, like something falls on your head and knocks you down on the ground, and, and you're lying there. And then, you know, it's just, or every time you eat, you know, because if your food's not offered to Krishna, then verily you're eating only sin. Every time you put some bite in your mouth, it's like someone pokes you and punches you in the stomach or something, because that's your reaction for eating sin. It's like, it's crazy. So Krishna's actually very, very kind. That he
So
doesn't give us
slowly,
instant
gradually,
karma.
yeah, slowly,
And
gradually doing this.
yeah, we all have like a huge, like sky
Yes,
high
yes.
pile of karma to burn off. And each lifetime, Krishna just allots a certain amount. Okay, so this lifetime, they're going to burn off this amount of karma. That's called our prarabdha karma. And then we just get that. And then, you know, next life, he allots another, and then we get a certain body that, you know, is suitable for burning off the karma that we need to burn off, or, you know, whether we're suffering or enjoying. So Krishna allots it out little by little. It's kind of like, you know, when you buy a house, you don't pay for it all at once. You pay in installments, right? Over a period of time. So, and that's like a way that enables the person to actually own a home, right? If they had to pay the whole thing at once, they'd be homeless. They wouldn't be able to afford it. But so like that, we are not able to pay all of our karmic debt at once. And so Krishna gives it in installments, and that's his mercy. But the result is that, you know, let's say you've been living in the house for 20 years, you still need to make your house payment. And somebody might think, you know, this is my house. I've been living here for 20 years. Why do I have to keep paying the previous owner? Like, this house has nothing to do with him anymore, right? It's my house. So no, you still have to pay your debt to the previous owner. So it's like that. So yeah. But the result is that there's a disconnect between what we did and what the reaction is. And yeah. But that's also good in the sense that, see, Krishna doesn't force us to be his devotees. And you know, if somebody is stubbornly attached to their atheistic mindset, then Krishna facilitates that, right? He's neutral. He lets them do their sinful activities, and you know, they get their consequences. But if we would get punished for every little thing that we did right when we did it, with a little label attached to it, like this is why you're suffering because you just did that, then everybody would just end up surrendering to Krishna to get free from their karma. So Krishna does it in a way that's like a little removed, so that people can go on with their illusion of thinking that they're the controllers and the enjoyers in this world, you know, until they come to the point of actually surrendering. And then Krishna's like, okay, now that you're ready to surrender, now I'm going to explain a few things to you, right? Like, for example, this is why you're suffering, because you're doing sinful activities. And this is how to live in a way that you can be free from karma. And that's what the Bhagavad Gita is telling us. That when you work with attachment, when you think you're the master, the proprietor, when you're just doing it for your own profit and you're using your profit for your own enjoyment, then you become entangled and you have to suffer. And the modes of material nature are going to push you around, and you're going to take birth again. But if you do things if you do it for me, then you can get free from karma, you know, and you can be happy even in this life.
Pastime karmas also.
What's that?
You said free from karma. I'm saying that pastime karma also.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing about devotional service is it frees us from all the different stages of karma. The karma that's been allotted to us in this life, the karma that's that whole stockpile, that whole like sky high stockpile of aprarabdha karma.
Yes.
Yeah, aprarabdham phalam papam. What is it? Kutam bijam phalam mukam. Yeah, all the different stages and of karma, they all get gradually annihilated by devotional service. Sundar Kumar?
I want to continue this question. Like you said, he be free from all the karma, even past. Then why great devotees suffer from difficulties? Like we have examples like I don't want to mention, but we have great devotees who suffers. Still, they have like tolerance, but still they suffer. So why, if they are great devotees and they are fully surrendered to Krishna, then why they are not free from past karma? Or I don't know why they suffer, but if this is a tune, then why they suffer?
Yeah. So there's a nice verse in Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a very well-known verse. It's from the prayers of Lord Brahma in Canto 10, 14, verse 8. And yeah. Tate nukampam sushamikshamano bunjana evatma kritam vipakam ridvag vapubir vidadan namaste jiveta yo mukti pade sadayabak. So he says that he's praying, Lord Brahma is praying, my dear Lord, one who earnestly awaits your causeless mercy and at the same time patiently suffers the reactions of his past misdeeds, but at the same time goes on offering you respectful obeisances with his rid, vag, vapu, with his heart, his words, and his body, is eligible for liberation, for it's become his rightful claim. So there in the purport, this purport is also, it's based on the commentary of Sridhar Swami. So it says that a pure devotee may also apparently suffer, and that suffering may look like bad karma, reactions to bad karma. But actually, those sufferings or those problems are like a curative treatment that's personally administered by the loving hand of the Lord. So one might think, oh, why does a devotee have to, go through that then? And so what it says is that it's in order to remove the last vestiges of the enjoying spirit. So even in the mind of a great devotee, there still may be some last little remnants that, that I can enjoy myself without Krishna, that something in this material world can make me happy, even if it's not connected to Krishna, or that this world is a happy place, or that, this body is a vehicle for bringing me pleasure, or whatever, So Krishna gives miseries, gives pain and disease or whatever problems, just to convince that person to let go of those last little things that they're holding on to, last misconceptions, just to totally, get them free from their tendency to enjoy without the Lord. And then they can just totally focus on Krishna. So, yeah. It's really the Lord's special mercy to make us totally let go of the material world so that we can go back home, back to Godhead. Because let's say you become a devotee and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, you never get sick again, you never get hurt again. Everyone just treats you really nicely. You never get indigestion, you never get a headache. At night you sleep really well, or maybe you don't even need to sleep anymore. You're always just full of energy, everything's good. Then you might start thinking, actually, this world is nice. I could stay here for a few more lifetimes like this. It is cool. And I can be happy and I can eat all I want and never get indigestion. And I can, do anything I want. I'll never get sick, never get hurt. It's like, woohoo, life is enjoyable. So Krishna makes sure that even his pure devotees have some suffering as reminders. No, this world is not the place to stay. This body is not a source of pleasure. You know, everything material is just going to be a cause of distress. So just let it go, let it go, and let it go. And just hold on to me alone here. And then that helps us to keep the goal in mind, right? Keep focused on Krishna. Because that's the problem the demigods have, right? In Swargaloka, the demigods are living up there, and that's their situation, right? They don't get sick, they don't get hurt. They, you know, there's some anxiety because they're worried about the demons attacking and things. But compared to life here, it's like pretty good. So what happens? They forget about Krishna. And they're just partying up there, singing and dancing, enjoying the beautiful women are enjoying the beautiful men are enjoying the beautiful women, and they're drinking soma ras, and they're always like, you know, blissed out and like intoxicated on their soma ras. And so they don't think of Krishna. They're not like, you know, calling out to Krishna with sincere feeling. It's like the verse that Kunti Devi says, Janmaishvarya Shuta Shribir Edamana Madapunam Naivar Hatya Vidatum Vai Twama Kinchana Gocharam. That if, that actually birth in a good family, physical beauty, good education, Janmaishvarya, opulence, wealth, they're actually can be problematic. Right? Because they can make a person mad, right? Edamana madapuma. They can make a person become insane, thinking that, oh, my life is good. I'm the enjoyer. Everything's good for me. And then they can't chant with sincere feeling. Whereas a person who's, you know, suddenly impoverished or just got notification that they have stage 4 cancer or something like that, they're going to be like, Hare Krishna, 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 please help me. Krishna, Krishna, please save me. Krishna, Krishna, I need you. Krishna, Krishna, I'm totally depending on you, right? And that's really what we need to come to. Okay. All right, good. So let's do text 33 to 35. Rani.
Text 33. When a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature, for everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes, what can repression accomplish? Text 34. There are principles to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to the sense and their objects. One should not come under the control of such attachment and aversion because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. Text 35. It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duty, even though faultily, than another's duty perfectly. Distraction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duties, for to follow another's path is dangerous.
Okay. Yeah, so Krishna is saying this because previously Arjuna had proposed that instead of fighting, he goes to the forest and, you know, lives by begging. And Krishna is basically saying, that's not going to work. Impossible. Because you have a certain nature, you're a warrior, you know, you might try to repress it, your fighting tendencies for some time, but soon you're going to be fighting with the hermits there in the forest. So the same is true for us, right? We, no matter how academically qualified we may be, unless we are fully engaged in spiritual activities, we're going to act according to our psychophysical nature. Basically, we all have our individual nature. That nature is a result of all of our past experiences and impressions and desires and associations from previous lifetimes and the beginning of this lifetime. And all of those things come together to create a particular consciousness, which brought us into our present body and gives us a certain nature. And then according to the nature that we've acquired, which is not our spiritual nature, but it's our conditioned nature. So according to that conditioned nature that we've acquired, then we have our own likes and dislikes and, you know, our preferences about things. We become attached to some situations and averse to other situations. So Krishna is saying, like, you don't need to repress your nature. But what you need to do is just regulate those things. So according to your nature, you have certain attachments and you have certain aversions. He's saying don't just repress those, but regulate them according to the scriptures. Right? That's what he's saying in text 34, that there are principles to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to the senses and their objects. So yeah, you have your certain set of senses. Your senses are attached to certain sorts of objects, right? Usually men are attached to women, women are attached to men. So there's certain people are attached to different things, right? Some people like this kind of food, some people like that kind of food, whatever. So, okay, that's there. Don't try to repress it, but just regulate it. And so in the purport, Prabhupada gives the example of marriage. Okay, you have this attraction to the opposite sex, you have sex desire, you have this desire to have children, have a family, like that, have your home, make it all cozy and everything. Fine. So get married. There's a principle by which we can regulate that attachment, and it's called marriage. So then get yourself married and be responsible and restrict yourself to one romantic partner, and serve each other and carry your weight in the relationship and do everything according to Dharma, and do it ultimately for Krishna, connected to do it in Krishna consciousness. And that way, the propensity to enjoy the body is going to be gradually curbed, right? And if you have those desires and then you don't regulate it, you don't get married, and you're just going here and there with this person, that person, or whatever people do nowadays, then that's going to be a huge obstacle in spiritual life. Prabhupada says it will be a stumbling block on the path of self-realization. So yeah, as long as the material body is there, the necessities of the material body are allowed, but under rules and regulations. Then he says, but even, so that's considered the royal road, right? Not following the regulations is considered taking a very bumpy old dirt road. It's very painful, right? Full of suffering. So doing things according to regulations like marriage, so you're regulating your senses, so you're on the royal road, you're on the high road. But then he says that there is a chance of accidents even on the royal road. So even within marriage, one has to be careful, right? Because sense gratification, even under regulations, you might go astray. You might end up being, too indulgent. So we always need to be vigilant that the senses are, the desires of the senses are, they easily get out of control. And there's every chance of falling down, he says. So we need to be careful and be Krishna conscious. So don't think, okay, now I'm married, now I'm safe, everything's good. We still need to be very Krishna conscious and very, practice our sadhana very nicely every day. Make sure we have good association, and keep in touch with scripture, be reading every day, read with your family, and become Krishna conscious. Shobha?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Mataji had in 34 text in text 34 purport, there is a line, for example, sex enjoyment is a necessity for the conditioned soul. So in Krishna consciousness, first we learn about 4 principles. One is also sex control and senses. Then
Yeah.
is this okay? Sex enjoyment is necessary?
For most
Can
people,
you please
yes.
explain? Can you please elaborate on?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, ma'am.
So for most people in this world, the sex desire is something very strong. And if you propose to them that, okay, you're going to not have sex in your whole life, they'll be like, forget it. Right? So most people will be like, okay, I can maybe, be celibate for some time, you know, but at one point, the desire becomes too strong. So yeah, the urge of the genitals is a very strong pushing. So Prabhupada is saying basically it's a necessity for the conditioned soul, for most conditioned souls. And so when we take the vow no illicit sex, it doesn't mean no sex. It means no illicit sex, right? But licit sex, in other words, there's regulated sex, and that's allowed. So that's regulated sex means you get married according to proper, vivaha yagya, and you take vows to the person. So you're restricting yourself to one person. And then also, ideally, you're only engaging in the act of sex for conceiving children, with the intention that you're going to raise those children in Krishna consciousness. So that's allowed. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, in fact, that's great. Krishna says that I am sex life, which is according to religious principles. So it's actually a very beautiful thing. And, if we can raise our children in Krishna consciousness and have wonderful Krishna conscious families and set an example for the world of how to live a balanced, healthy life in Krishna consciousness, that's an example that people can follow, right? Like most people are not going to become brahmacharis or sannyasis. People in the world are going to get married and have families. That's like, 99.99% of the population is going to do that. So if we can show people how to have nice Krishna conscious families, how to control the urges of the genitals in a responsible way, without, having illicit affairs, without using contraceptives, just having sex, having children, raising those children in Krishna consciousness, then yeah, it's something that the world can follow. It's very practical. Okay. And devotees should have many children. Somebody, I think somebody was saying that Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world today, and they don't even preach, right? You don't see the Muslims out there on the street doing book distribution or something like that, but they just have so many children. They'll be having like 10 children. So, yeah, devotees should have a lot of children, raise them in Krishna consciousness. They'd be the future leaders of ISKCON. They go out and start new temples and make new devotees, and they're inspiring examples of pure Vaikuntha children. And yeah, it's an important part of Krishna consciousness.
Thank you, Mataji.
Okay, Bimala Prasad Prabhu? Oh,
Yes.
I thought you had your...
I was just thinking of throwing some masala.
Okay, go ahead.
So at least they should the devotees should thank their stars that they have got something called regulated sex. There is nothing called regulated drinking of booze. There is no regulated drinking or eating of meat.
Right? Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Kalakantapu we have a preaching center here that we have new devotees. So yeah, in the West, the lifestyle is pretty crazy. Young people become sexually active basically as soon as they reach puberty, some of them, in their teenage years and things. So when they come to Krishna consciousness, they join the ashram, then it's like no sex, that you're in the ashram, complete celibacy while you're in the ashram. So it's very difficult for some because they already have a taste for it. So they're like they're like so eager to, get married, or they're just, I don't know, the fire is too strong. They're burning up inside, this desire. And so one time the temple president was giving the class, and he was saying, we're not saying that you can't have sex. We're just saying, wait. We're not saying no. We're just saying, wait. So just be patient. Just dedicate yourself for like 1 year, of celibacy, and just focus on Krishna consciousness. Lay a nice spiritual foundation, absorb yourself in sadhana and preaching, get a taste for Krishna consciousness, and then when you're fixed up, then you get married, and then you can have sex and you can have children and do your thing. So we're not saying no sex, right? We say no meat eating, we say no intoxication. We don't say no sex. We just say, just wait, until the time is right, until you're married, until you're stable, until you're settled, and develop your relationship with your spouse a little bit, and then just do everything nicely. Just do everything really like mode of goodness and very peacefully, not in passion and fury and just pushed by your genitals to like it's not how you want to live. We want to be a human being, you know, like do things in a nice way. So that requires some patience and the sense control. But the reward is high, right? If you just go off and have illicit sex or something like that, you're going to feel terrible. You're going to be contaminated. It's going to contaminate your body, contaminate your mind. There's so many diseases. You're going to have a lot of emotional like hang-ups and trauma and things like that when you break up and after that. But if you just wait, then you know, it's actually a beautiful thing. And Krishna also rewards that. Krishna rewards when we put off sense gratification and do things the way that he would like us to do them. Then he gives us nice children. He gives us peace of mind. He gives us a lot of support. Gives us a lot of happiness in life. So, yeah. Stay on the royal road, but be careful that even on the royal road, there may be accidents. Okay. The next verse here, text 35, this important verse, this concept is repeated later, that it's better to do our own duty than trying to follow another person's path. Because the duties for each type of nature, or we could say, you know, varna or ashram, are designed in such a way to purify us of the particular nature that we have, the particular conditioning which caused us to have that nature. So if we do someone else's duty, even if we can do it well, but it's not going to purify us of the subtle conditioning that we have acquired due to our nature. So we have to do the work that's prescribed for the nature, because that work is going to purify the conditioning that caused us to have that nature. And ultimately, we want to get free from the conditioned nature altogether. So that's necessary. Right? For example, Vaishyas. So the Vaishyas, they protect cows and they do agriculture, right? But Vaishyas, they're also interested in money, right? They're very profit oriented. Everything that they're always thinking, Vaishyas are just always thinking about money, how to get more profit. So for the Vaishyas, they do agriculture, they're producing food and they're selling it and they're earning money. But they also have to protect cows. And protecting cows means you maintain that cow throughout its life. You can't sell it to send it to the slaughterhouse. You can't just put it out in the street because it's only eating and not giving milk anymore. You need to protect the cow. So that that purifies the Vaishya mentality of everything is just for profit. Because now you've got these cows that are not producing milk, but you're spending money to maintain them. And then, you know, by doing that, then they get detached from this conditioning that just drives them to profit. Right? They have to accept that no, not everything that I do is for profit. Some things I do just because it's the right thing to do, even if it ends up being a financial liability. You see? So, but then other varnas, for, you know, like a Brahmin doesn't have so much of that drive for money, drive for profit. What they have is a tendency to become proud. So the Brahmins, part of the Brahmins' duty is that they have to beg. They have to live in poverty, right? And just depend on the other sectors of society for their maintenance. So that stops the Brahmin from being proud because they're a beggar. So yeah, these things are all very well designed by Krishna. He creates the varnashram system. And so we do our duties and we get purified of our conditioning and we can make spiritual advancement. If we don't do our duties that are prescribed for us, then okay, we may be able to do the duty well, but we're not going to get purified in the same way. So Krishna doesn't advise it, because human life is not meant for earning money or whatever. It's meant for purification. The goal is purification. So we don't want to throw away the part of the duty that purifies us. We want to embrace that. Barka?
Hare Krishna Mataji. I wanted to ask, does the nature of the duty changes or does it remain same throughout the life?
It can change, right? As we become elevated, as we become free from modes of nature, as our conditioning gets purified. So for devotees, it can change. Generally, for non-devotees, not going to change that much because they're not, you know, they're basically just going with their karma. But for devotees, there's a lot of personal transformation of the heart. And as we get free from conditioning, as we work our way up, to mode of goodness, to transcendental platform, then we're no longer bound by our conditioned nature. And so therefore we're no longer bound to perform prescribed duties that we would have, that, are a result of our conditioned nature. And then the devotee who's, very purified, then they're acting under the direction of Guru and Krishna only. They're not driven by the nature. They're not forced to act helplessly, right? Like in 33, he's saying that everyone is forced. Everyone is forced. What was it? Yeah. Even a man of knowledge acts according to his nature. Everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes. What can repression accomplish? So, yeah. So someone who's free from their conditioning, they're no longer forced by their nature to act because they're not under the influence of the modes. But that's a very exalted state, right? That transcendental platform is a very high state. So even though we're practicing devotional service, most of us are not transcendental yet. We're still under the influence of the modes. So we're kind of works in progress. So we just need to, gradually work through our conditioning and come closer to Krishna.
Thank you.
Right? Mahakamulani.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I have a question that one who is in ignorance or don't have a knowledge the rules and regulation of in the Krishna consciousness, then he will work against the rules and regulation like doing illicit sex or gambling or meat eating. So he can get karma or not?
Yeah, obviously anyone who's not following regular principles, who's doing illicit sex, they're getting karma. Jatin?
Hare Krishna Mataji. I just wanted to ask question regarding the cows. What should be done with the bulls, the male of cows? Like it's just for my knowledge, not the. Although I want to ask a religious perspective of that.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, cow protection also means bull protection. So ideally the bulls should be engaged in work, right? The bulls become happy when they're engaged in some work, like pulling the cart, plowing the field, things like that. Like the way they would do traditionally in Indian village systems and traditional agriculture. And then those bulls should be maintained, right? Not that like, when your parents, grandparents get old and now they can't work anymore, they're not earning money anymore, you don't just throw them out into the street, right? Or send them off to get killed. Like after they worked for you and, helped you so much in your life. So the cow is like the mother. She provides milk to us throughout, when we're not taking mother's milk anymore. When your mother gets old and can no longer cook for you and feed you, you're not going to just put her out in the street or send her to the slaughterhouse, right? So cow is the mother and bull is the father. And we need to take care of them in their old age, just like we would our elderly
I
grandparents.
just have one more query. Here in Pakistan, most usually bulls are not used for the manual work usually. So
Yeah.
the bulls at gaushalas usually sometimes are being sold in markets. So most probably they are used for slaughterhouses. So
Yeah.
how could this be cured? If you are keeping bulls, it is highly costly to maintain all the and capacity. You need a capacity and everything else to maintain it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the whole civilization is just going the wrong way, right? So that's the problem. Industrial civilization and a dependence, on tractors. And Prabhupada was very against these things. So yeah, we can't immediately solve the problem. It's a big problem. But that's why Srila Prabhupada was advocating farm communities. So devotees we can have our own farms and show people like an economically viable way to live in this world, produce food, have our own cows and bulls, use them, properly protect them throughout their lives. So we have a lot of work to do, as a society on a global level to try to make a model for the rest of the world. Because the way the world is now, it's at one point it's going to crash. Like it can't go on like this. It's not sustainable. So, but so Prabhupada wanted like sustainable farm communities. We can show people how to live a peaceful, healthy, natural life in this world. And gradually people, as we develop those communities, or other groups may also develop similar communities, and then the world sees, oh wow, what a great way to live. This is beautiful. This is wonderful. This is so healthy. This is what I need, and more people will start doing it. But it will take some time. Yeah, Krishna Priya?
Hi, Krishna Mataji. Mataji, I have a question. We see in the purport of text 35, Krishna says here that when one transcends the modes of material nature and is fully situated in Krishna consciousness, he can perform anything and everything under the direction
Yeah.
of bona fide spiritual master. And Prabhupada continues here that he gives the example of Vishwamitra and Parshuram, and he says that in the transcendental stage, the Brahmana may act as a Kshatriya, uh, a Kshatriya may act as a Brahmana may act as a Kshatriya. So here Prabhupada is
Yeah.
speaking about the complete stage of Krishna consciousness. And we see in the text 30 that Krishna is guiding, saying Arjuna, by surrendering all your works unto me. And he's like giving the idea. He's saying the three things: without desires for fruit, no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy. Like this verse
Yeah.
shows that how one can become, like how one can transcend the modes of material nature. And in the
Yeah.
purpose, Prabhupada says that this is a full Krishna consciousness. So how can we understand that at one point Krishna is suggesting Arjuna that you have to become free from the modes of material nature, and at the same time he's saying that in transcendence, like transcendence allows that you can act beyond your material duty, but still after instructing Krishna, after instructing Arjuna that if you will surrender work unto me, you will go beyond the modes of material nature, but Krishna is still insisting Arjuna to work on the basis of varna ashrama dharma. So how can we
Yeah.
understand this in a perfect way?
Yeah. So this is just one of the reasons why Krishna is telling Arjuna to fight, right? One of the reasons is you're a Kshatriya. It's your nature to fight, right? But the thing is that anyways, Krishna wants Arjuna to fight not just because it's his nature, but because it's his devotional service. So it just happens that what that even if Arjuna was on the transcendental platform, Krishna would still ask him to fight, right? But it just happens to also be, what he would do if he wasn't on the transcendental platform. So sometimes it works out like that we have a certain nature, that we're attracted to a certain service, and then we do that service, we get purified, and then we come to a stage where we could do anything for Krishna, right? Transcendental platform, whatever Guru and Krishna say, I surrender, I'll do that service. But then the guru is like, you're good at that, just go ahead and go with what you've been doing your whole life and do that for Krishna, and that's your service. So it's kind of like a seamless. So your duty doesn't necessarily have to change, but what has to change is the consciousness. So yeah. So Bhagavad Gita is doing that. It's taking us through, right? First, he's just saying, go ahead and fight because these people are not the body and you're not killing them anyway. That's one argument. Another argument is fight because it's your duty. You're a Kshatriya. You have to do your duty. Other than fight, set an example for others. You're a leader. People need to do their duty, so you should do your duty. But ultimately, he's going to come to the conclusion, fight because I am God and I'm asking you to fight. And you need to surrender to me and do anything that I say. And I happen to be telling you to fight. Right. Okay, we should go on. So let's go to texts.
Thank you, Mataji.
Let's read 36 to 41. This is going to be all about lust, because now Arjuna is going to ask a question because, Krishna is telling Arjuna that we shouldn't allow our attachments and aversions to control us. Okay, but then Arjuna is seeing there are all these soldiers on the battlefield and they're ready to kill each other. Why? Because of attachments and aversions. So he's like, wow, this is heavy. These attachments and aversions are really strong. They're driving these people to just cause the death of millions of people. What is the cause of this insanity? What is it that's driving people to act against their own self-interest? Okay, so this is what we're getting into now. text 30, yeah, 37, sorry, 36 to 41. Who wants to read Hitka? Go ahead.
Text number 36, or descendant of Vishnu by what if one impaired of sinful activity unwittingly as if engaged by force. Text number 37, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is lust only Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of action and later transformed into breath, and which is all the devouring sinful enemy of this world. Text number 38, as fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, and as the embryo is covered by the worm, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of this dust. Text number 39, thus the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of dust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. Text number 40, the sense, the mind, and the intelligence are the taking place of this lust, who them thus cover the real knowledge of the living entity and bewildered.
Okay. Thank you. So yeah, Krishna is very direct about his answer. He says, it is lust. Lust only, Arjuna, which comes from the material mode of passion, and is later transformed into wrath, and is the all-devouring sinful enemy of the world. And it's going to devour almost all of those warriors there on the battlefield, right? Mahashano, Mahapapma. Ashana means eat. It's the Maha, it's the great eater. It's literally eating. And that's what lust does, is it eats us up from the inside, right? When the desire, material desires become so strong, especially we're talking about sex desire becomes so strong, it's literally just like eating you up from the inside. So I'm going to try to share. I have a nice slide here that I made based on this purport to text 37. Oh, can somebody give me the screen sharing rights? Make me a host or co-host?
Wait a second. Sorry. I forgot that.
Mataji, I have made you the co-host.
You've made me the co-host. Okay. Let's see. This is a fun slide. Okay, so it's called From Love to Lust and Back Again. Because in the purport, Prabhupada is talking about how originally we all have eternal love for Krishna. But in association with the mode of passion, that gets transformed into lust. And now our project in this lifetime is to try to transform that lust, which we're all full of, back into pure love for Krishna, right? We want to go from material desires to spiritual desires. We want to go from lust, and from kama to prema. So how do we do that? So Prabhupada explains it very nicely in the purport to text 37. And then, so I made a slide that's based on this. Let me just put it slideshow mode. Okay. From love to lust and back again. So we start off in the spiritual world with love for Krishna. And then, due to the influence of the mode of passion, that gets transformed into lust. Probably it's just like milk becomes curdled, right? When you contacts with sour tamarind or lemon or something like that. So then, when the mode of passion, which caused our original love to transform into lust, when that becomes mixed with the mode of ignorance, hold on, small. Then it leads us to commit sinful activities. And then when we commit sinful activities, we get frustrated because the reason we do any activity is to try to be happy, but sinful activities never lead to happiness. They always lead to suffering. So our attempts to be happy by sinful activities become frustrated. And then that frustration leads to, if it's influenced by the mode of ignorance, it leads to anger. And that's what, Krishna says that the material mode of passion is later, lust is transformed into wrath. And then that leads to further illusion. And then that further illusion causes increased lust and material entanglement. And then we end up in a cycle. So now it's like a vicious cycle that sinful activity, frustration, anger, illusion, more lust, that again becomes mixed with more ignorance. So we're like, oh, that first sinful activity didn't make me happy. Let me try another sinful activity, right? And then again, frustration, anger, illusion. Oh, that didn't work. So it's like, first you did one thing and then, so people who get into sinful activities, they usually, because of the prominence of passion and especially ignorance of what they're even doing and that it's wrong, and the karma that they're going to get, they just keep doing another thing. Like people will start off drinking alcohol and then they'll end up going into drugs and then harder drugs and like that. So they get caught in this vicious downward spiraling cycle. Okay, so let's see another way. So if the lust, whether it's coming from our original lust or the lust that was generated by, sinful activities and anger, if that somehow gets mixed with goodness, right? Like maybe we associate with somebody who's in the mode of goodness, and they're like, oh, you have all these material desires. Well, you're doing it the wrong way. You're doing sinful activities. That never works out very well. Better thing is do karma kanda. You can get your desires fulfilled by worshiping demigods, doing rituals. Those demigods, when they're happy that you did your nice little, Vedic ritual perfectly, you got a Brahmin priest to help you, and you said your mantras with good pronunciation and things. You did the offering well. Then they're going to reward you, and you're going to get your desire fulfilled. And then that fulfillment of the desire is going to give you faith in Shastra, because you used a Shastric basis for, your karma kanda activity. And then then your faith in Shastra, if you're just influenced by the mode of passion, you're like, oh, wow, I worship this demigod. I got this material thing. My material desire got fulfilled. Let's see what else I can get by worshiping demigods. Let me do more worship of this demigod, or let me try worshiping another demigod for another material desire. And then you just go in this, then you get caught in the cycle of karma kanda, where you do some worship, you get your desire fulfilled. That's great. Shastra ki jai, let me try some more mode of passion, and you keep going around and around like that. But if your faith in Shastra is influenced by more mode of goodness, then that is going to lead you to actually going deeper in Shastra, right? Not just getting stuck in karma kanda, but actually approaching somebody who knows Shastra and being like, wow, these scriptures are really, they work, they're good. I believe, I'm a believer. What else, how else can I benefit in my life from these scriptures? What else do they have to say? And then you approach a guru and sadhus, and you take Bhakti Shastri class and Bhakti Vaibhava and Bhakti Vedanta, and you practice everything that you learn in those shastras, and the guru guides you every step of the way, and you have nice association with sadhus, and you reawaken you get purified of lust, and your love for Krishna arises. Okay, so let's go back to the other side here. Frustration. So if you do a sinful activity and you get frustrated, if you get influenced by the mode of ignorance, you're going to become angry and illusioned. But if in that frustration, you associate with somebody who's in the mode of goodness, like you do something, you're like, ugh, I'm so frustrated. I don't know what to do now. I was trying to be happy. That was just a disaster. Please help. And then you go to someone in the mode of goodness, then you ask them, what is the purpose of life? Like, who am I? Why am I suffering? Why is it that my every attempt to enjoy myself is frustrated? Why is it that nothing works in this material world? There has to be a fundamental flaw in the way that I'm living my life. How should I live my life? What is the point? What is the actual goal of my existence? And we start asking those big questions. And then that is going to will be directed, by the super soul to Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, because they're the only ones that can answer those questions in a way that's not frustrating, in a way that's actually satisfying. And then when they do, we get faith in them, we follow them, we get taste for Krishna consciousness, we start actually doing what a human being is meant to do, serve Krishna. And by that devotional service, we get free from lust, we get purified, and we reawaken our love for Krishna. So that's basically what Prabhupada is explaining here in this purport. Jai. How'd you like the slide? It makes it very clear, right? Yeah, Prabhupada talks about how the modes influence all these things. And that's also, it's helpful to be aware of the modes of nature and how they can either drag us down or lift us up, keep us increasingly entangled in material existence, or, gradually guide us along the stepping stones along the path back home, back to Godhead. And it also shows us the importance of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, because as soon as we connect with them, the sooner things can start to change, right? The game changes. Okay, so here in these verses also Krishna, he gives us some hints about lust. So first of all, he tells us that the problem is lust. And now, he says that lust is our enemy. So this is something that Arjuna can relate to because he's a Kshatriya, and Kshatriyas have to deal with enemies, right? And right now he's in the battlefield and he's confronting many enemies. So Krishna is telling him that you think you have a lot of enemies. This is the worst enemy. This is your greatest enemy, is lust. And so, if you're fighting an enemy, you need to know, where is the enemy located? Where are their strategic positions? Because if we know where they are, we know where to find them, and then we can defeat them. If they're hiding out, and we can't find them, how are we going to kill them? Right? So, oh, actually, that's the next verse. So we're going to find out about that later. The text 38, well, we can go to that since I already brought it up. So Krishna says, these are the sitting places of lust. He says the senses, Indriyani, the mind, mano, and budhir, the intelligence. So these are the sitting places of lust. And they cover us in different ways. So lust in the senses pushes us to enjoy the objects of the senses. Lust in the mind pushes us to do things to get respect and adoration and distinction. And lust in the intelligence causes us to misuse our intelligence in the service of the senses. Right? So instead of using our intelligence to understand God, we use our intelligence to come up with, new creative ideas for sense gratification. And in that way, the whole situation becomes spoiled. The soul becomes more and more covered. And Prabhupada says, addicted to enjoying the material senses and mistaking this as true happiness. So that's where lust is situated. And then lust, the way that it harms us is that it covers our pure consciousness, right? Because as Prabhupada says in his explanation to the Mahamantra, he says, we are all originally Krishna conscious beings, all originally Krishna conscious entities. And so our nature is pure consciousness. So how is it that we become conditioned? How is it that we become contaminated? How is it that all these anarthas and desires and attachments have come upon the pure soul, and our consciousness has become contaminated? It's because of lust. So then lust covers our original consciousness, and it covers us to different degrees. So he says, as fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb. So yeah, Srila Prabhupada explains that this is different species of life are covered to different degrees. So the says the embryo and the womb is like the plants and trees, their consciousness is so covered that it's basically impossible. So like the embryo in the womb is so covered by the womb that the embryo cannot see the light of day, right? It's just complete darkness, just closed situation. They can't get out, they can't see anything. It's just darkness. So yeah, the trees and plants are like that. The consciousness is so dulled down there's no hope for them to understand Krishna consciousness. And then he says is it the mere covered by dust is compared to the birds and beasts. So also, if you have a mirror and it's covered by dust, even though it's a thin layer of covering, but still you can't see yourself at all, right? You look at the mirror, you don't see your face, you just see dust. So animals like that, they have a little bit more advanced intelligence, but still they're not able to use it to understand God. So they can respond to certain things, they can communicate in certain ways, and maybe at least you can give them prasadam, you can chant in their ear or something like that. Sometimes maybe an animal can serve a devotee, like if it's a, a service dog, it can help a blind devotee, or it can help, now they have emotional support dogs that are trained like that. At least in the West, they have those, and they can help people, help people in certain situations. So there's some little ways that maybe animals can somehow engage in the service of the Lord. Or, of course, there are animals like if a bull is pulling the Padayatra cart, right, or in the deity procession, or an elephant is leading the procession of the deities, carrying the deity on their back, or, different ways that animals can be engaged. Bees are making honey, and that honey can be offered to Krishna. Milk, cows are giving milk, that can be offered to Krishna. So in some, indirect ways, they can be engaged in the service of the Lord. So there's some hope, but not, it's still, they don't become Krishna conscious. Like they don't, in the way that a human being becomes intentionally Krishna conscious. So it's a little more hope for them, but still not much, because the lust is too thick. And then human beings are compared to a fire covered by smoke. So when you're starting a fire, there's a lot of smoke in the beginning. And sometimes the smoke is so thick that you can barely see the flame there. It's a little fire. But the smoke is moving around. So if you, change your position or the wind blows the other way, you can see the flame. So in human life, there's a lot more hope, because in some situations we're totally confused, totally on the bodily concept of life. But sometimes we get a little glimmer of like, no, I'm actually a soul. Right? For example, like even materialistic people, when they go to a funeral, right? Their mother or father dies, they go to the funeral and they start actually seeing a little bit of a flame there. Like, no, actually we are eternal souls. There's an afterlife. I'm also a soul, and I'm also going to die, and I probably should prepare myself for death. Maybe I should start praying more, or maybe I should go to temple, get the Lord's blessings or something, at least for my departed loved one, if not for myself. So sometimes there's a glimmer, even in the life of a most atheistic, lust-covered person. There's a glimmer of the fire of the spiritual awareness there. And then, of course, as we fan that spark and make the flame grow, then there's less smoke. So then the smoke's going away, we're getting freed from lust, and our awareness, our self-awareness as being a spirit soul, that I'm an eternal servant of Krishna, then that starts to blaze. That becomes strong and very apparent. So Krishna explains it like that. And then he tells us in text 39 a little bit about the nature of lust, that it covers our pure consciousness in the ways that we just mentioned. And Nitravarina, it's our eternal enemy. And Duspirena Analena Cha, it's never satisfied, and it burns us like fire. So it's like lust is like a fire that if you put fuel on if you put a log on a fire, then the fire just burns brighter. So this is very important practical knowledge for us, because sometimes we think, oh, I have this material desire. If I just, fulfill it, then I'll be satisfied. Then I'll be peaceful. Then my life will be nice. And then I can sit and chant my rounds peacefully. So that's not how lust works. Lust works that the more you feed it, the more you try to fulfill your lustful desires, the more those desires become strong, right? And especially sex desire is very much like that. So that's why, while people are still young, it's advised to practice brahmacharya, right? While you still haven't had sex in your life, just continue. Just keep that going for as long as you can, brahmacharya ashram. Because once you start, that's what I was saying with these young people in the West, that they've already been sexually active from a young age, then they decide to join the temple and become a brahmachari. It's very, very difficult. So better to don't put wood on the fire. Keep the flame as small as possible, and just don't put any ghee on it. Nothing. And if we don't indulge in those material desires, then it's just like if you don't put wood on the fire, what happens? Gradually, it goes down, 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 and then it just becomes some hot coals, some hot ashes, and then gradually, it just goes out, right? And it just goes cold, no more fire. And the material desires go away. So, yeah. And Prabhupada talks mainly in the purport, he talks about sex life, how it's so entangling. He says that he uses this analogy that's very good analogy, that in an ordinary prison house, criminals are kept within bars. Similarly, criminals who are disobedient to the laws of the Lord are shackled by sex life. So this sex life is like a chain that's shackling us to the material world, that's shackling us to suffering lifetime after lifetime. And so we really need to break this chain. If we want to be free from repeated birth and death, free from material suffering, then we have to break this chain of attachment to sex life and the sex pleasure. So, yeah. That's why in the Vedic system, three out of the four ashrams are celibate ashrams, right? So brahmachari, total celibacy, for ideally first 25 years of life at least. And then grihastha ashram for 25 years is the only ashram in which sex is allowed, but even that under restriction, right? It's supposed to be only for conceiving children and then, raising those children. So by doing that, then once, when even in Grihastha ashram, the sex life is regulated, then the fire goes down. Fire gradually goes down. And then as you get older, then you move out of the childbearing years and your children are grown up. And then by that time, the fire has gone down substantially enough that you can just stop it altogether again and be fine. And then you go on and spend the rest of your life with celibacy. Right? As vanaprasthas, or, for men, you can take sannyas and make a formal acknowledgement that I am going to be celibate and devote myself to serving the Lord. Or, generally as women, it's more just like, okay, you don't need to make like a public declaration about it, but you just devote yourself internally to the service of the Lord and keep the senses very engaged in Krishna's service and not engaged in anything that's not Krishna service. So, yeah. Prabhupada says at the end of the purport, while one enjoys sense gratification, it may be that there is some feeling of happiness, but actually that so-called feeling of happiness is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer. So Prabhupada is not saying that, he's not saying that sex is not pleasurable. He's saying that there may be some enjoyment, there's some feeling of enjoyment, but that enjoyment comes with a big price tag, right? It comes with a big hook. It's like the enjoyment that a fish feels when it's eating the worm, but the worm's on a hook. So, he bites the worm. He's like, oh, nice juicy worm. And then he gets reeled in by the fisherman and he ends up getting cooked on someone's plate that night for dinner. So that's what happens to us. We're like, oh, nice juicy pleasurable taste from sex life. And then you're hooked. Then the chain is locked, right? And then we get reeled into Maya and shackled to this material suffering. So, yeah, so the enemy becomes, the happiness is our enemy because it's like, it tricks us, it cheats us into a lot of suffering. That 2 minutes of pleasure you get ends up being like lifetimes of suffering. So it's not worth it, right? The price is too high. Okay. All right. So what did we read up to? We read up to 41. Yeah. So then Krishna is saying, therefore, Arjuna, in the very beginning, curb this lust. You need to just put a big stop sign on the lust, just like be like, no, I am not going to fulfill these lusty desires. I'm going to regulate my senses. And yeah, from the very beginning. So that can mean from the very beginning of life, right? Like Prahlad Maharaj recommends from childhood, early age of childhood, just start regulating yourself. Or, if you have devotee parents, then if you are a devotee who has children, encourage them, regulate your senses from the beginning. Don't eat too much, don't eat junk food, get up early in the morning, don't spend too much time on your screen or video games or whatever Maya the kids get into. Regulate it, right? Okay, you have 1 hour of screen time at this time every day after school when you've done your homework, right? Regulate it. Like that. So they get used to a life from the beginning. They get used to regulating the senses, controlling the mind, and finding Krishna conscious ways to be happy. Or it can also mean that from the very beginning, right? In chapter 2, we saw that contemplating the objects of the senses, then what happens? Attachment develops, and then lust, and then anger, and then bewilderment of memory, delusion, all those things. So from the very beginning, as soon as you see that attractive sense object, just stop it there. Don't contemplate it further. You see it, you think about it for 30 seconds, stop. Don't think about it anymore. From the very beginning, curb this lust, because attachment and lust come very quickly as soon as we contemplate. Okay. And then also remember that whenever we experience lust, whenever you feel lust coming up in your heart, remind yourself, use your intelligence and tell yourself that this is actually just the perverted reflection of my love for God, of my love for Krishna. And so I can use this as a reminder of Krishna, right? When lust arises, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this. I should be loving Krishna. I should divert this energy, right? This energy of material desires, sexual energy that's pushing me towards, Maya. Use this energy to push me to Krishna. The same energy, just channel it, just redirect it to Krishna and serve Krishna with a lot of intensity. And yeah, and then the lust won't drag us down. We can actually use it as a way to push us into the service of Krishna. All right. And we actually have the power to do this. And how do we have the power to do this? Krishna is going to explain that in the next 2 verses. So someone please read 42 and 43. Go ahead, Sagar.
Hare Krishna. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. And the soul is even higher than the intelligence. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind, and intelligence. O mighty armed Arjun, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this unstable enemy known as lust.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so in these verses, Krishna is basically saying, Arjuna, you can do it. Right? You can do this. You got this. You have the power to control your material desires because you are superior to all these things. You're superior to dull matter. You're superior, the senses are superior to dull matter. The mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is higher than the mind. And you, the soul, are higher even than intelligence. So, Krishna's saying, don't let your senses drag you away. Don't let the sense objects just drag you away. They're the most inferior thing here in the equation, right? They're the lowest thing. They're not even animate objects. Don't blame it on the chocolate cake. Don't blame it on the beautiful woman. Don't blame it on the nice shiny car. They're just inanimate objects, right? It's not their fault that they're attractive. They're just manifestations of Krishna's attractive energy. They're just, sparks of his splendor. So your senses are higher than that. So the senses don't have to engage with the sense objects. The senses can just stop. And then, but then how to control the senses? The mind. You say, oh, my senses are out of control. No, mind is higher than sense. So, okay, then use your mind to control the senses. You just decide in your mind that you are not going to do that thing, and don't. That's it. And you say, oh, but my mind is so weak, my mind is so out of control. Okay, higher than the mind is the intelligence. So if your mind cannot make a good decision, then you have to use your intelligence to preach to your mind, to explain to the mind why this is not a good thing, why this is going to cause suffering, why this is going to cause entanglement, why this is going to keep me in the material world, why this is going to destroy my relationships, it's going to be bad for my health, whatever reasons. Intelligence can come up with a lot of good reasons to convince the mind to not let the senses engage with the sense objects, right? And then if you say, oh, but my intelligence is not great, I'm actually really dull and I can't think of anything right now, then Krishna's like, don't worry, you're an eternal spirit soul and you've got this. The soul has no interest in anything material because after all, you're spiritual. This has nothing to do with you. So you can just take charge. And as a soul, you can seek direction from a guru. And if you can't control your own mind and intelligence and senses and whatever, then take shelter of someone who can help you. Right? You realize you're a soul, get some spiritual help. So this is very important to remember that we don't have to cater to the whims of our senses. We don't have to indulge our mind in its little mental whims. Yeah. And so that's why we're studying Shastra, right? We study Shastra in order to strengthen our intelligence, to fortify our spiritual intelligence, so that when the senses are pulled by lust towards something, when the mind also, because lust can take over the mind, senses, and intelligence. And that's why sometimes we can't trust our mind and sometimes we can't trust our intelligence because lust is situated there, right? Krishna said, if your intelligence and mind have been usurped basically by lust, if they've been seized and taken over by lust, then how can they help you? They're just going to drag you down. They're like traitor. They betrayed you. They betrayed you as a soul. But he's saying that you are higher than these things. So even if your intelligence is riddled with lust, even if your mind is totally influenced by lust, even if your senses are full of lust, you still don't have to be victimized by these lower tendencies because you are a soul. You are a pure conscious being, Satchit Ananda. And yeah. So Krishna gives us this hierarchy. All right. So Prabhupada recommends here, with intelligence, one has to seek out the constitutional position of the soul and engage the mind always in Krishna consciousness. That solves the whole problem. So basically, there are two approaches here. There's there's the top-down approach and there's the bottom-up approach. So this verse text 42 is recommending the top-down approach, right? So first of all, realize that you're a soul and realize that you can never be contaminated. And as a soul, you just take charge of the situation, right? Get some guidance from another soul who's not afflicted by lust, and then just act as a soul and spiritualize your intelligence by studying Shastra, control the mind by the orders of Guru, and engage the senses accordingly. Okay, so that's top-down approach. Then the bottom-up approach is that I have no idea who I am. I'm totally on the bodily concept of life. But okay, just start with the senses then. Just engage your senses in the service of Krishna, right? Like Maharaj Ambarish does. Your nose in smelling the flower offered to the deity, your eyes in seeing the form of the deity, your hands in cleaning the temple, your legs in going to the temple, your tongue in tasting Krishna prasadam, your ears in hearing Krishna katha, your intelligence in studying Shastra, your mind in, choosing Krishna consciousness, right? Accepting what's favorable, rejecting what's favorable. And in this way, everything gradually gets lined up. right? Starting with the senses, engaging the senses with the sense objects in the service of Krishna, using our senses to engage the material things of this world in Krishna's service. So that's the process of bhakti, right? Bhakti, or devotional service, means engaging the senses in the service of the Lord. And by doing that, the senses become purified, and the mind becomes purified, intelligence becomes purified, and we realize that we are souls. We realize we're eternal servants of Krishna. So that's the top-up approach, bottom-up approach. Top-down approach means, okay, the whole situation's a mess, but I realize I'm a soul. And as a soul, I'm going to take charge of the situation and study Shastra, fortify my intelligence, and get my mind under control, and use my senses in Krishna's service. So basically in Krishna consciousness, we have to do both, right? Because lust is very strong. So we need to use both strategies simultaneously. So we're engaging our senses in the service of the Lord. And also we're knowing that we're souls, and we're strengthening our intelligence by studying Shastra, by hearing and studying. And from the two-pronged angle of attack, we can defeat this insatiable enemy, right? As Krishna says, knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind of intelligence, steady the mind by your deliberate spiritual intelligence and conquer over lust. Okay, questions? Kishori?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Very well.
Mataji, I have a question that I heard from a devotee that in Krishna's Dham, the Dolat Vrindavan Dham, there is no Maya. So Mataji, when we were there, we were there, so Mataji, why we come here in this material world?
Yeah. So basically we made a bad choice. Right? Krishna gives us our independence. So we can always choose to serve Krishna in the spiritual world, or we can choose to do something else. So at one point we just, for some reason or another, some say it's due to envy, some say it's just due to curiosity, some whatever, we decided to come here. So anyways, it was a bad choice. We made a big mistake. We got ourselves in a big mess here. So now we just need to fix it, clean up the mess, repair the damage, reestablish our relationship with Krishna, and go back home where we belong. Okay. Bina? Yes, Bina, you need to unmute yourself. There you go.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Mataji, my question is, there is a thought come in mind that we should give up all material desire, but there is also the negative thought come in mind that you cannot do it, or you are so much addicted to this thing and this thing. So main question is that how to one initiate to giving up all the material desire? How to initiate this process?
Well, you have to look at your material desires and see, which ones are potentially can be dovetailed in Krishna's service, and which ones can't be, or at least at your current stage of your current level of Krishna consciousness, that you don't know how to engage them. And then whatever ones you can't engage, you just need to gradually let go of, right? And whatever ones you can engage in Krishna's service, then just dovetail them like that, right? Just divert them to Krishna consciousness. So it's kind of like you have to take inventory, right? Just like you go into your refrigerator, your pantry, and you see, okay, what bhoga do I have? What am I going to make for dinner, right? First, before you start cooking, you need to see, what do I have? What ingredients do I have? That's going to determine what you can make. So like that, we have to take inventory. You have to open the door of our pantry of our hearts and see what's in there, right? Look at what material desires, what material attachments are in there. Okay, now what am I going to do with this, right? And then what am I going to make for Krishna out of what I have? These are the ingredients that I have. How am I going to do something to please Krishna with this? So basically, yeah, what we have in the pantry of our hearts right now is mainly material desires. That's you open the cupboard and it's like it's not very high quality ingredients, but somehow or other we need to make an offering. So yeah, we just have to, as Prabhupada said, make the best use of a bad bargain, and whatever we have here, we need to use in Krishna's service. And gradually, gradually it gets purified, and then it becomes, as time goes by, our offering becomes more suitable, more pleasing, more pure. But we just start with that, right? Taking my material desires and connecting them to Krishna. Okay, I really want to do this. I'm going to try to do it for Krishna. Okay.
Okay, Mataji.
Alrighty. Kishore, do you have another question?
Ji Mataji.
Okay, go ahead.
That Mataji, you said that we had a choice to leave Krishna's arm. But Mataji, Krishna is very beautiful and some good looking. So that is why we live.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's a
God,
mystery.
not again.
That's a mystery. There's one place where there's the example of there's a tree that has a fruit, right? So 3 men are standing under the tree, and the fruit falls on the tree and falls on the ground and breaks open. So they're looking up at the tree, and they didn't see it how it fell. They just saw that it smashed on the ground there. So then one says, "Oh, I think the wind blew and it shook the branch and it made the fruit fall." The other says, "No, no, 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 no. A bird landed on the fruit and started pecking it, and that's what made it fall." This is no, no. It was just ripe. Fruits naturally fall. Gravity, when they're ripe, the stem loosens and they fall. So then they're arguing all day. No, it was the bird. No, it was the wind. No, it was the ripeness. And at the end of the day, the fruit is just getting there rotten on the ground, right? And then somebody comes along and says, "What are you guys arguing about?" And then and they say what they're arguing about, and he's like, "Why didn't you just pick up the fruit and you could have just, offered it to Krishna and eaten it?" But they were too busy arguing about how it fell down. They just wasted the whole opportunity. So like that, we don't want to waste our lives just trying to figure out like how we got here, but we should use this life, whatever it is we're here, use this life, use our time, every moment of our time to try to serve Krishna. Okay, like if you fall into a blazing fire, there's a big fire and you fall into it, you're not going to sit in the fire thinking, "How did I get in here? Did I slip on a banana peel? Did somebody push me? Did I get dizzy?" You're going to get out of that fire as fast as you can. So this material world is compared to the blazing forest fire of material existence, right? Samsara dava nalalita loka. We're in a fire here. So don't stay sitting in the fire wondering, "Oh, how did I get here? Was I envious? Whatever. Don't worry about how you got here. Just get out ASAP as soon as possible. Okay? And when you get there, you can ask Krishna, "Krishna, what happened?" He knows. All right, we're going to end here because it's time. Thank you very much, and we'll see you tomorrow. Start chapter 4. Hare Krishna. Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna,
So much,
Mataji.
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.